Assalamualaikum. Hello, hi, tajahau, vanakkam. Welcome to another episode of Overload Podcast Malaysia. So today we are shooting from a very special place with a very special person. We are shooting from EQ, Kuala Lumpur, with the one, the only Datuk Nicol David. Welcome, Datuk. So before we proceed and move on with the interview, I would like to ask all of you to subscribe, like, and click the bell button on our YouTube channel so that you will receive the notification and all the new inputs that Overload Podcast Malaysia will provide throughout this year. So, I would also like to give a shout out to Dirt Army, Hype Guardian, and Trilight 70 Studios as our main sponsors for today's video. So, without further ado, my first question to Datuk. Datuk dah makan? Yes, good. Okay, now. Alright. So, it's a pleasure having you here, Datuk. I know I'm taking time from your very busy schedule, even though you are retired, but you are still an icon in Malaysia and throughout the world. So, Datuk, basically, everybody know that you are for me, the GOAT, the greatest of all time in squash, men's and women's. You are the best for me,
Thank you
for every Malaysian and mostly for everybody in the world. So, but I think people don't know, how did you start this journey? So I read about something, but I think I'll let you tell the story first, and I'll just ask if the story that I had
whether
was
it's
true.
matching or not.
Yeah, whether it's matching or not. So
Sure.
yeah, with all due respect. Yeah.
Well, squash really was all about like starting when I was 5 years old, going to the squash courts with my sisters. I have two older sisters at the time, and I was too young, and I only could watch from outside. And the moment I was watching the game, I was thinking, I really have to start playing this game.
Okay.
And I pestered my dad whether I could get a racket to start, but I was very small, so he had to cut the racket into half and make sure that I could actually hold the racket and start hitting the ball. And from that moment on, I really fell in love with the game, and I was thinking about it, dreaming about it, and I kept training, kept playing competition, even from a young age, because I started improving and traveling with my sisters, and it was the best experience to be playing a sport at such a young age, but then you actually love it straight away. Even though I played other sports, but squash just captured my heart.
Your two sisters, they play, I mean, not professional, I mean, they play to the highest level as well? I mean, for the state as well?
Yeah, we played for the state team for Pinnacle. In Sukma. We played for the national team. Cheryl, my second sister, she represented Malaysia with me in the same team for the World Juniors, and they just played very high level, but at the same time, at one point, they decided to go to university and decided squash is not for them, but it was for me.
Okay, so we'll go to that later.
Yes.
So the story that I heard was that when I'm not sure whether you were 3 or 4, but you said you kept pestering on your dad. You wanted to play squash, and the story that I heard was that because you were, at the time, you were still a little girl,
And
so
hyper.
at hyper.
Yeah.
Your coach or your sister's coach lock you up inside a squash arena venue with a racket and a ball, is it?
Yes,
and
that
from there it just develops the feeling with the sport, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Like, so I also was like, I loved how the game was, but then finally when the coach said, okay, maybe we keep her like contained and not run so much, maybe that is a good idea. if she asks to play, then we better put her on the court. So that's also, it kills two birds with one stone. Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, you got it right for sure.
Okay. So you started at the age of 5.
Yeah.
What was your first real breakthrough? I mean, as a sports person, the motivation is winning.
Yeah.
A champion, you have to win. To become a champion, you have to win. So, when did you learn that this squash was made for you? And because for me, squash is a misunderstood sport. people macam mana nak main? How do
Yeah.
we play this game?
Yeah.
So macam, oh, you just have to hit the wall. People think it's easy. I've played squash
Yeah.
just for fun, and I still
you
think
did good.
it's hard. It's
Yeah.
tiring. It's hard for you to just hit that
That same
even though
space.
that same space,
Yeah.
even though it's big, but it's not that easy for you to hit with that accuracy.
Yeah.
So, when did you know that it was your calling, and what was your first breakthrough? I mean, even from the junior level.
Yeah, I think that squash is kind of underestimated,
Mm.
and you don't have to be a specific body type. You don't have to be too tall or too short or too big or strong, or you just have to have everything to become a squash player. You have to be skillful. You have to be mentally strong. You have to be fast. You have to have endurance. And you have to be strong too to make sure you hit the ball hard and sustain that. And I think those factors make the game so fun, because there's no one thing that you have to be a squash player, and that's what made it so good, because I was small, but then I could still play the game and still beat these bigger girls, because I had to be smart as well. So that challenged me to go out of my mind to be creative and play a good game. But at the same time, that I kept improving, because I wanted to improve every aspect of the games.
Yes.
And I got better. I started winning tournaments in the juniors, and my first breakthrough was winning the Asian Championships, and I was 14 years old in 1998, and with the adults.
So you're playing the Open lah?
Yeah, the Open.
Wow.
So that was a huge breakthrough for me, and I thought, this is what I can really do this. So from then on, I moved into the next year, where I won my first World Junior title at 15. I won that, and that's where I knew that this was what I want to do for my life. Like, I really want to play squash for the rest of my life.
Okay. Going back to taking that point and going back to what you said just now, your sisters, they could have gone pro, but they didn't go pro. So they choose to study and pursue their dreams on that particular path. So for you, my parents especially, education is everything. Especially Asian parents lah, not just my parents. All Asian parents are like that. So it's hard for them to concede that even though you are good, you were the World Junior Champions, and not once, I think twice, right? So you were the only woman in history until Ranim came over. So you were the only woman in history to won that junior title twice. So didn't you get into that period of time in which your parents macam, Nicol, tak payahlah, stop lah, just not saying that your parents aren't supportive, but parents might have that kind of mindset or approach to their children, just macam, you don't need to play this one, you can be successful in this, because I know you are good in math, if I'm not mistaken, right? So you can go until engineering or whatsoever, right? So did you go through that period? Because right now, millennials nowadays, we are suffering from that, in which we want to do something else, but the parents say, tak payahlah, you become this. Because this one will ensure you, will guarantee you
your
career
path,
and
make sure you make money, and then you can sustain your life or future with your family. And that's everything that is being told, and all parents have that same thought, and it's fine. But it's at the same time, what my parents did was they gave me this space to, and with my sisters, that if we want to really go for something, we're going to put it 100%. Even with my studies, when my squash, they didn't pressure me to be excellent or be the best. We just did it ourselves. We wanted to prove to ourselves that we can do it, and we didn't have to be bogged down. And it's the same with this decision to become a professional squash player. Straight after SPM, I actually bargained with them for 1 year. Like, if I do 1 year of squash and then see how I go, I maybe go back to school. And they were like, okay, we let you go 1 year. And then I got to the top 16. And then I went, second year, I was like, can I go my second year? And then they were looking at me going, okay, you know what, let her go. And in the third year, I was like, I really want to do this, and I want to move to Amsterdam and train full time with my coach there, Liz, and they just said like, you know, they saw how keen I was and they saw how determined I was ready to take on my dreams, and they didn't have any restrictions. They just say you have our blessings, and
that's the most important thing
exactly. And I think that's the biggest thing to have from a parents, to have their blessings to go. Then you are fully capable of doing whatever you want in your own direction.
Yeah, true. Okay, so it's clear. I mean, parents will have doubts, but as long as determination and perseverance is there, you can do it in whatever you are doing. It's just not just sports, right?
Yeah.
So you mentioned just now when you decided to go pro in 2000, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah, you decided to go pro, and in 2000, and you won your first tournament. That even on that year, the first year on tour. So that's
2001 is when I went after school. So but to sign up as a pro, I have to be in 2000. But I did full time 2001.
2001.
Yeah,
So when that first and you won the tournament, right? I can't remember what's the tournament
in Finland.
In Finland, right? So after that, does that motivates you to move to find a new coach? Because I know your previous coach was Richard, right? Richard Glanfield, and I met him once.
Okay.
I had the opportunity to take a picture with him, but I cannot find the picture already.
It's
a
a
long time ago.
Yeah.
So and then you moved to Liz, all right? Because I know your idol was Sarah Fitzgerald, and then
she was the best.
She was the best at the time, but is it in coaching terms? What these two figures taught you about? I mean, because Richard was mainly during your junior years, and Liz was for your when you turned pro. So can you just not identify? Tell us this is a bit of difference in style, and what did Liz taught you that Richard might not have taught you, and what Richard gave to you that Liz might not have been able to reach out to you on that matter?
I think from the very beginning, our state team had coaches coming through from KL. So basically the national squashes, like our SRAM, Squash Rackets Association of Malaysia, had to maybe put some coaches in Penang State because we had a lot of top athletes playing for the team. So technically, we had a Pakistani coach, Ahmad Raza Malik, who started off with the team, and then Richard came along to take over the state team. And so that's how it all started, where I was also developing as a junior under Richard's guidance. And to a certain point, like all coaches have their points to how far they can go, and also the experience it takes. So when I went to Amsterdam and in my tours, I saw that there was a different perspective on how top pro squash players are played, and women players are being played, and she used to be a top pro herself.
Player,
So to understand that, to hear that, it really opened my mind to a whole world of possibilities. So and obviously it's always tough to change coaches, but I had to make that decision to move and go to Amsterdam, and everybody, and it's clear when that happens. So I had 7 years working with Richard, and then it was the next phase to work with Liz, and it was the best turning point for me in terms of the breaking through the top level of professional, and I know for a fact without that I wouldn't be the player that I am today, and with the consistency that I have in terms of how she opened my mind to the technical side, the tactical side, the strength, the movement. All these were all very refined details that needed to be addressed when you want to be a top pro.
The small details, attention to details.
Exactly, that's the difference.
That's the quality of champions. Because for me, if you give attention even to small details, it makes a lot of difference at the top level, right? So the footwork, the knowing where, or if his stroke is like this, her stroke is like this, it will go there. So you can expect those kind of shots already. So you talk about moving to Amsterdam and Liz. This is something that I really I was really interested when I first found out. Even back then, when I was very young, when I was following you.
Yeah.
So when I got to know that, oh, she's moving to Amsterdam and she's being coached by Liz, Liz Irving. So Liz, no offense to Liz, I'm sorry, but she never won the Worlds. Right, the World Opens and British Open also, she never won.
Yeah,
Did that
4 finalists,
yeah,
2 world title finalists,
yes,
and
right.
like world team champions.
World team champions?
Yeah.
But did that create after you won your Worlds lah?
Yeah.
Did that create some not tension, some rivalry? Because champions will always have that mentality of, you know, something, because I followed Kobe Bryant, that Mamba mentality, you know, it's like something that you just don't want to lose. Did you create that?
No, I think what's so unique about Liz is that she was always there to offer all her experience, and she knows what it takes to be on the receiving end and what it takes to be number one, to be beaten. You know, and to beat them as well. So having the two aspects, it's very hard to get from anybody else, because she was receiving that time and time again. How to be pressured in that way, to get to be dominating the scene, that she had to keep playing these players time and time again, and that's the quality she had, that she didn't have any jealousy on what I achieved. She just knew she had the tools to offer to just enhance my game and to make sure I play the best that I can. There was nothing for her. It was all purely for the benefit of my improvement, and I think that's what good coaches are all about. They have their own life and their past, but what can they do with the experience they gain to transfer it into their next phase? And she really made a position for herself as a true mentor and a leader for me to aspire to be, because she taught me so much of what it takes to first lead and to show me how it's done.
All right. Okay. This is a question that actually a friend of mine asked me to ask you.
Yeah, okay.
Why did you move to Amsterdam? Is it because KL or Malaysia itself, Malaysia, KL cannot provide to you what you need, or is just that leap of faith just demands you to do that, or is there any reason for you to move to Amsterdam?
It was, firstly, there was the best opportunity to work with Liz is being in Amsterdam, because that was probably the only real way to break through to that next phase. And being in Malaysia, I didn't seem to find that, you know, we have good coaches and players, but none really that could take me to that next level. When I went to Amsterdam, I saw what she was doing. I saw how she could coach these top players, and that's where I wanted to be. But it didn't just happen like overnight. It took time, but I had to be ready to push out of my comfort zone. And leaving Malaysia is never easy. You have to leave your home, you have to leave your family, your friends. Everything is here. But no matter what level you are, if you want to keep improving in sport, you have to break out from your comfort zone.
True. And
be in somewhere where you have to adapt, because playing competition, you are constantly adapting to different situations, and you can't be comfortable all the time.
Yeah.
So that's the best.
Okay, the last question before we take a break.
Yeah.
It's regarding your relationship with Vanessa Atkinson, because I know Vanessa, she trained under Liz as well.
Yeah.
So and at the time, I think you guys were world number 1 and world number 2.
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken. So you guys did Liz proud for sure,
Yeah.
right? So because you
Yes.
guys are really conquering the world scene at the time. So nearly every tournament in 2006 and 2007, early part of that were, I think the first 5 tournaments were all you guys. The finals were Nicol David against Vanessa Atkinson.
Exactly.
Especially the CIMB Open here, I'm not mistaken. That one is something that that match is really something.
Yeah.
So did she train you different? I mean, you guys differently? So or she just, I'll teach you, Nicol, you should do this, you improve this, and at the end of the day, you guys gonna put into a scrimmage, you guys do not fight each other, you train with each other, yeah. So
it was different because she had to work different things she's very technically good, more so of the movement and the tactics and the getting her mind to keep the right game plan. That's what Liz was trying to enhance and improve. For me, it's really also the technical side, how to be more like hitting, attacking, being more dominant, and also the movement to improve my efficiency of my movement. So all these things, but then I was actually very ready to fight and put my mind to it. So we are two very, very different squash players. So she approaches the coaching very differently for both of us. And then when we are around, we train together, but she was living actually in The Hague, which is like 45 minutes away, and I was in Amsterdam working with Liz more directly. So she would travel back and forth, and at one point, she had a coaching there or training there, and she just didn't travel as much, and things changed according to the player. But what Liz did was she could give that to Vanessa, and Vanessa made so much out of it, being world champion. And even Vanessa, to be honest, she didn't think she was going to get there, but Liz told her, you have what it takes, so we can try and make it a point that we can guide you to it. And she did, and I think she was quite satisfied to get to that point. And for me, I wanted more, and that's where I pushed harder. I put the work in, and that was all that mattered for me.
All right. So, okay, since you mentioned the Worlds, all right, we're just going to touch this on top before we go into details, especially that 2006 match. I still have to ask that one.
Okay.
So, the Worlds. The Worlds and the British Open, these are the pinnacle of squash, because Olympics is not there. Sadly, I still cannot understand why it's not there, but the British and Worlds are the pinnacle of squash at this moment. So when you won your first Worlds back in 2005, you won both actually, right? You won both Worlds and British Open in the same year, and you were the first Asian to do that. So did that grind at that moment of time, the grind that you did with Liz and the sacrifice that you made to move to Amsterdam and all you're not choosing education, at that point, do you feel like it's the sweetest is the sweetest moment of your life, or is there any other moment that you think that beats that particular? The first win will always be the sweetest, right?
Exactly.
So
I think that's what it is.
So is that the case?
Yeah, 2005 was very a key year for me to win my first British Open. And you think, okay, it's just a one-off thing, like the British Open, huge, I can't believe it. But then when I won the world title at the end of that year, and being world number one the following month, it was just like a dream come true, and everything just coming all together. And at that moment, you just never know what to do. You just think, it's all happening, and I reached what I wanted all my life, and now what? So that was the point where I had to figure out, what does this really mean? Like, what's being world number one and world champion all about? Is it being something else? Is it just keep doing what I'm doing? So that was my moment of understanding, how am I going to be world number one and world champion, and it all was very, very nice, and I think one of the best experience to have that first world title. But then it's very daunting on what do I do next, and I had to figure that out in 2006, what I had to do, and to come into the end of the year where I truly realized this is my place to be, and I pushed hard to get to that 2006 World Open finals. And when I got that world title, that's when I realized that I'm gonna do this and push it to how high I want to go.
It changed you to another gear, basically,
Exactly.
because it's an unknown arena. Because before you reach that,
you're just training towards it. You're training towards it, but then no one tells you what you're gonna do when you get there.
Yes, it's not waktu I will number one. There's nobody who's gonna tell you that, because all the champions like this is a secret that I have to keep to myself, and the experience is going to be different for everybody. Exactly. So when it changed you to another gear, so that's why you really, I think after you won that Worlds 2005, it changes you as a person, as an athlete, as a squash ambassador, and it shows from the way you approach it. Because I watched the 2005 and 2006 Malaysian Open. I went there and basically tengok lah, duduk. Even though I don't really understand at that time how the game was played, but the demeanor of yourself at that moment was, she carried herself differently from last year. I said to my friend, she carried dia lain. Dia lain. Dia tahun lepas dia tak macam ni. Her focus is different. Her determination to win this one is different. So macam it's a good thing lah. I mean, being number one, it comes with the pros and cons. So, and I think that's the pros of things. So we're just gonna take a 5-minute break.
Yes.
So stay tuned. So we're gonna be back with Datuk Nicol David after this. Welcome back to the Overload Podcast Malaysia. So we're going to continue this epic discussion with Datuk Nicol David. So right now we're going to talk about your success in the major tournaments. I mean, major tournaments is Worlds, British Open, and your success as world number one. So Wikipedia, please get your facts correct. It's 109 consecutive months. It's not 108. Okay. So. Okay, you've been world champion 8 times, British Open champions 5 times. Is it a two different setup altogether? Because it's like people expect when you are world champion, you should be able to win the British Open as well. Because world, of course the world does not consist only with Britons, right? So does that setup is different that make you? It's a little bit difficult for the British Open to win?
There's two things. So the British Open is the longest running event in history. And that's what is so important to win. That it's like the Wimbledon of squash. So that title means a lot. And I think sometimes you go into tournaments like that, probably putting a bit more expectations on yourself to do well, and also the hype of it going into it. But at the same time, it's also just a year you can only pick max two times in a year, and if you can pick for 2 moments in a year, that's amazing. So my plan for a tournament year is to have maybe 4 or 5 tournaments to lead up to the British Open, and that's in the middle of the year, and then another 4 tournaments to lead up to the World Championships. And the key is to be at such a high level that you win all of it. So when you go down, you're not at your best even at the other tournaments, but you're still ahead of everyone else, and then peaking for the British Open, and then the same thing goes for the other tournaments, peaking for the World Championships. You're at your highest of the high, and that's the ideal scenario. But not all the time it works to your way. So the British Open becomes the trial and error of what happens for the World Championships. And
since it happens before.
And then you do all the adjustments that you need to, and other tournaments are the same. So it's just working on what had went wrong, what should be looked upon, and then you refine until you get it right at the end. So always at the end of the year, I always perform my best because everything is being done, everything's looked at, and then you're ready to fire through.
Okay, so your British Open, usually your British Open wins are when it comes to the final, most of it it's still epic, but it's not as epic as the 2006 World Championship match. I spent 3 hours just looking back at the video. I tried to find the 2006 World Final, and then I found that video. So I keep on, I tengok sekali habis, I tengok lagi, because I think there are some parts that it changes everything. The momentum of the game changes from time to time to time, because when the first set happens, the second set happens, third set happens, it's like
it was long.
It was long. It was 100 107 minutes, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. The next time you met was the longest, 140, 100 and something,
around
110,
there.
114 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a long match. So, but the 2006 Worlds was the momentum shift. I was like, okay, after the second set, macam, oh, maybe Datuk kalah kot, maybe tak boleh kot kan, because it seems that she's getting confident. So I was macam, oh, but when it comes to the fifth set, I was like macam, if she wins this, nobody can say anything about Datuk Nicol David, as this match is considered, it's like Roger Federer against Rafael Nadal at the Wimbledon final as well. So can you tell us a bit what went through your mind at the time, and did you have any feeling at that during the match that this match is mine?
It was a match that was a long time ago, but the experience really resonates right now, where it's all built up to that moment where everything is defining whether you're a world champion or not, and whether that one-off win in 2005 was just happened out of the blue, or is this really real? So I went in just focusing on what I needed to do with the game plan, but both of us have a very similar game. So we kept playing, we kept doing the rallies. We had rallies that went on for 80 shots, 100 shot rallies. It was a very long match, and the first two games was very close. I think the third game went her way, and I was thinking coming into the fourth game, I'm not letting this go. I want to make sure I stay in that fourth game as long as I can until she breaks. And that was my mindset going in the fourth game, and it was a 25-minute match, that one game, or maybe even longer. And it was not the same scoring now. It was hand in, hand out.
Yeah.
So you have to win your serve and then win again to get a point. So it was hand in, hand out at 4-all for the longest time or something, and then it went to 7-5, 5-7, back and forth forever. And at one point I just went, I got the points and I won that game. And once I got that, I saw her change.
She broke down.
And I knew that, and my coach told me that you got this. Go, keep to the same rhythm, keep the same momentum, stick to what you're doing, because you're pushing her and she's gonna get tired. So mentally and physically. And I went for it. I didn't think of anything else. That last game was a blur. I went in, I played my heart out, and I won that game, and came out as world champion. And I was truly relieved and excited that I got this for the second time.
The second time is feeling better lah.
Because it's not better. It's real.
It's not a flunk. The 2005 one win was not a flunk. So okay, you were world number one for 9 years straight. So just for your information, that match you can find on YouTube. It's Natalie Greenham versus Nicol David, 2006 World Open final. So you back to the topic. You were world number one for 9 straight years. Even in any sports, there will never be somebody that will be 9 years straight. It's 9 years straight. It's not macam 2 years turun sekejap naik balik. Dia macam, it's not like that. It's like literally consecutively you were world number one. So that feeling of being world number one, did you feel that you know that everybody is trying to catch you? So what was your approach for that? Because right now Malaysians, some Malaysians are very talented. Malaysian athletes are actually very, very, very talented. But that lack of, I'm not saying that the lack of discipline, but maybe the lack of knowing how to manage as a world number one or the best in the world affects them. So what did you do at that particular period of time that it manages you to be world number one for 9 years straight?
So the thing is not just Malaysian athletes, it's actually all athletes, whether it's squash or any sport. I'm only understanding what I've achieved at world number one for 9 years, and I guess I never fully understood until I retired, and feeling so much more proud of the achievement I got, because I was in it, I was doing it, I was focused on 1 year at a time, pushing my heart out with training, sticking to the program and plan set with my coach and I. and we stuck to it, and before you know it, it was 9 years. It was, and so that was what kept me going. Like, I didn't think that I was going to be world number one for that long period of time. I just stuck to it. I did the work. And I didn't lose my path. I kept to the process. And that's not doesn't happen to every athlete or sport or in any country. And it's the will to want to learn and reinvent. If I decided I wanted to be world number one and I stay put and do the same training, then I'm done, because everybody is doing the same. It's going to come out and find ways to beat you. They're all hunting you down. Every coach is wanting to find ways to beat me. All the players are there to go in with no fear. I'm the one that has to win all the time. And that was the pressure I had to withstand for that whole time. But I knew for a fact, if I work that much harder and I train that much more, and to find ways to tackle all their new styles, their new tactics, I have to be on top of my game all the time. My coach has to always refine our approach to training, and that's what it takes to be at the very best and be that much better. Because if I have a bad day, I can still beat them, and I can still maintain. That's what I work towards: consistency, and consistency for as long as I can, because I have to be so bad and so low, and they go up to their best squash to only then maybe have a chance to beat me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. I mean, innovation
always.
and
Transform. You have to keep
trying to be better when you are the best. So it's something that people don't really understand. Even though some people can say you are the best in the world, so you can take it really laxly, like macam, oh yeah, I'm the best in the world, so I can do whatever I want. So
I think I'm number 2. I'm always thinking that position is not mine to keep. Mine is mine to gain. Every month is another month to gain that position back. So I'm always thinking I have to work harder to get there. I have to work harder to get there. It's not mine.
That's a really ruthless approach. In a sense, like it's a ruthless approach. So coming to the main topic that I wanted to ask you today is in regards to the Olympic Games. I know you were devastated when it was excluded from London and Rio as well. Yes, we have the World Games. For your information, World Games is for the sports that was not included in Olympics, and it will be held a year after the Olympics, right? So, I know you were devastated, especially London, because at that time James Willstrop was the best, amongst the best in men's game. So I was expecting when they released it, the sports was released back in 2011, then 2009, 2009. So when they released that list of sports, I was macam, mesti Datuk tak suka. Sebab macam Nicol David must have been devastated about this, because James was on top of his game, and even in 2009 he was getting better at the time. So and then they got players like Laura Massaro, like Jenny Duncalf. So those players are, even though they might not be able to beat you, but they are still have a very good shot of winning medals. So macam London should have been squash included. So can you take us through that process, because ramai orang tak tahu how the sports for Olympic was picked, and why do you think it's the reason that squash just cannot be included? Some sports are no offense to other Olympians, but some sports is like it should have been squash, you know. So what do you think that the reason behind that?
I think there's a lot of squash enthusiasts, and yourself included, and the Malaysian public has always wanted squash to get there, so that we could have a hopeful journey for a medal,
for the first gold medal,
or maybe but at the same time it's really up to the Olympic Committee, the International Olympic Committee, to decide what they do. And every single time we campaign, it's always a different criteria, and every games they change time and time again. So the World Squash Federation, the whole squash community has put in so much effort and time to really fit into those criteria, and then it changes. So because they want to go according to what they want. On the day they decide, okay, we don't need squash, so then they choose not to have squash, and it's been happening for all this time. So at the end of at this point, squash just doesn't. It has lost the appeal. Olympics have made a point to take in sports that it's they want to see what comes back for them, or like a commercial value that will bring to the games, and they think that squash doesn't give that back. So if they don't want squash in, we can't expect to be forcing ourselves down that road anymore.
Yeah.
We should just focus on building our sport and doing what we love doing, which is to showcase our game all over the world the way we do, and we play our game the way we should be, and just be proud of what we have, and it will get there eventually. But right now, there's the appeal of being in the Olympic Games is lost, and I think they are finding a lot of different ways to promote the Olympics, but I think they have to come back to what's their priorities now. And they lost their appeal for a lot of athletes, and clearly for the squash community as well.
So okay, I understand the story behind that. So can you just briefly tell us some of the criteria that you think that you have fulfilled, but suddenly they change? I mean, because we normal people, we don't know what the criteria is.
Yeah,
is
the
it
last one was only the one was because it was in Tokyo, the Tokyo Olympics, and basically they decided to have the Tokyo Olympic Committee to decide what sport they want to include. So obviously, as a country, they will take their sports that they can get medals.
Yes.
If Malaysia was going to host Olympics, they're going to put squash.
Betul lah, yeah,
that's,
true lah.
that's exactly what they did. And so the Tokyo Olympics, there was no chance that squash is going to get there. Like before that in London, that was also that hope. But at the same time, they didn't want squash to get in because baseball and softball was taken out. So then they didn't want to put any new sports in to just tone down everybody. Yeah, so they didn't put. We were already probably in like squash and karate, but at that point they said we didn't want to cause any trouble with everybody, so we don't put any sports in to be better, to be safe. So even campaigning doesn't make any difference. They said we didn't want another sport in. And then it goes on, it's the same thing, and we hear this story over and over again. And it's like, if you can tell us up front that you don't want squash, we're fine. But don't let us put all the effort and time and know that it's not going to happen. So we don't need to be putting all that time anymore, and we need to just focus on what we do best.
So did you? You just give me a yes or no.
Yeah.
Did you think that they were scared of you winning?
No, it was nothing to do with who was going to win, or it was the pure fact that if the IOC do not decide if they don't want that sport in, they're not going to have it in.
Alright.
Yeah, very simple.
Very simple. It's a simple fact. Like, they just don't want squash to be there.
Exactly.
Alright, okay, understand. Okay, right now we're going to talk about your retirement. Before your retirement, we're going to talk about your decline. So, you lost your world number one title to Renim.
Yes.
2016. I think it's 2016. Early 2016, if I'm not mistaken.
September. 2015. Sorry, in September.
September, yeah. So you lost that title to her, and at that time, this is something that I just wanna try to clear the air. Did the failure in Olympics, bidding for the Olympics, affect your motivation? Because you've won it all. So
it wasn't anything to do with the Olympic campaign. It was purely the fact that once I was done my last world title in 2014, when I got a great year, winning everything and losing, and then finishing with that last huge win against Renim in Cairo, that's when I think something in me kind of broke. I think I used all my resources, everything that I had, right into that moment, and when it came to the next year, I think something was kind of broken in me, and so I went into figuring things out, not knowing what was happening, and eventually I went down the rankings, and I was struggling to find out what my identity really is if I'm not number one anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a painful experience because I worked harder. I made sure that I wanted to get that back. I wanted to hold on to that, and yeah, I got worse and worse. And that moment when you think you think you're there, but you just know that a part of you, I think that without realizing, the hunger was lost, like already slowly losing its feel of what it used to be, because I've taken everything out of me to get there. And that's the science. And maybe it took me like 2 years going through those cycles up and down, really breaking my head, what's really happening, killing myself with training, and not getting to where I want to was so frustrating, until that very moment where I went, you know what, I have to accept the fact I'm not going to be the way I am before. So when I accepted that, then things made sense. And when I had a big loss in the US Open in 2017, I just it hit me, like it's like I really, of my friend even asked me, do you really want to do this still? Or my coach said, what do you want to do with your squash? Like, do you really want to keep playing? And that's when I asked myself that hard question. I think I only have this 2 years left to go. So then everything kicked off from there, and I just had to accept that fact that I wasn't what I was going to be, because the hunger was lost.
It wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
So a question to you, did you, those critics, sports critics are, for me, sometimes they say things that you shouldn't just say, you know. So did they lash out on you on your poor performance? And then do you have any regrets of not leaving a legacy? Not to say you're not leaving a legacy, but not enough legacy for you. Do you feel that regret?
No, I don't think I think I've done all that I needed to do, and I achieved all I've achieved, and I finished off with my Asian Games gold medal last year. That really was the turning point of the true acceptance of, like, this is one of the happiest moments for me, and at the same time one of the saddest, because I know that my time is now about to end very soon. So all those moments, I had no regrets, and it all came to this point. Even there's no lashing, there's always going to be articles written, whether you are up high or down low, they are going to be writing things. But I kept to knowing what I wanted, and that is to enjoy the last phase of my squash career and give it my best to be ready and prepare myself for what was to come, this phase of my life.
Alright. Okay, so now we are at this phase of life,
yeah.
the retirement phase.
Yeah.
So you are busy with the SEA Games, you are busy with your own promotion and everything. So can you just tell us what to expect from you? I heard from somebody that you are setting up your own foundation. I don't know whether it's true or not.
Yes.
And can we, all Malaysian hopefuls, ever see you playing competitively again? Because this is a question that always been asked to world-class athletes. Like Kobe Bryant, we will ask a lot.
Yeah.
Can we see you play with LeBron again? Can we, just those kind of questions. So can we really see you again in the court, professionally and competitively?
Yeah, so the first thing that you asked me about my foundation, yes, I'm in the midst of setting my foundation up. It's the Nicol David Foundation. It's aimed to empowering girls and boys through sport, which is squash, and we want to bring the next generation with values. We want to instill them through sport, whether it's focus, discipline, determination, all this comes from sport, and we want to bring that forward when they are 8-9 years old, and also have English as a educational side to help them to enhance their English speaking for the future. We want to bring them as future leaders or future, like, just better people when they want to do anything in their life. So that foundation is geared on that. And if you want to see me playing soon, I'm not at the level, obviously, the competitive, like playing with the top girls, but I'll be playing in an upcoming event which I'm going to be hosting. It's an exhibition event called The Dream Remains. exhibition, and I'm gonna have top pros coming forward to KL right here, and I will be playing with our juniors. I want to show I want to also give back to our juniors. So I'm having some clinics with all Malaysian juniors all around the country. They're coming to go on court with me in the first part of the day with the top players, and then the main show will be the 4 top players, including our top player Loh Wei Wen, that will be playing with 3 other professional women players, and I'll be the side show. So you're expecting to see me playing right here in Malaysia as well.
Okay, it's okay. Then I think you'll be the main attraction. All right. So
in December,
in
19
December.
and 20.
Right.
Yeah.
So okay, we nearly conclude this interview. That as I explained to you before, that Overload Podcast is a podcast that revolves around sport personas and sport athletes and sneakers. So I know you on court, you only wear A6.
Yeah.
Which model is it?
The gel blades.
The gel blades. Okay.
Yeah.
You sneakers, have you ever heard about gel blades? I don't think so, because gel A6 are not the most hyped shoe in the world. But Datuk Nicol David is wearing it, so this is testimony for everybody
you
that
want to play squash, you will use your A6.
Yes, okay. So can you give some qualities of A6? Why A6? Because you are a world athlete. For sure, Nike. Sorry lah, I mean not naming brands. All the bigger brands side. For sure they will come for you, because you are a great ambassador of the brand itself. So why A6?
So I've tried all different brands, and they've approached me, and I've used them, and it's been great. But when I worked with Essex, I just knew it fit my foot. It felt good. I could move very freely, and at the same time, the technology that they have for indoor shoes and for squash-specific shoes, they are the best. They are the ones that know what it is with the movement, the impact, the feel, and it's the durability as well. So I've been using Essex for the longest time. They've customized my shoes as well to have.
You personally work on them? I mean,
we gave them the design. They put it on my. So I have our own Andy shoes, and they were treating me. They treat me really well, and I'm very thankful for their support. But the most important thing is to have good shoes that makes your body better. So that, because I always emphasize on how to look after my body, and it starts from your feet. And if you have good shoes, your body will be in good form. So they are very high performance shoes. A lot of squash players are using them, and I always go back to them to make sure my feet is it's looked after well.
All right. Okay. So concluding this interview, I'm going to ask you some quick fire questions.
Okay.
Just tell me the first word that comes to mind that when I ask you this word. So the first one. Neatly greener.
Fast and quick.
Fast and quick. Deserving.
Just a kind heart.
Kind heart. Renim.
Just a sweetie.
Overload Podcast.
Very hip and happening.
Alright, okay, Datuk. So that concludes the interview today with Datuk Nicol David. I'm very thankful for your time. It's great to see you. Very happy, very radiant after all the things that you've been through for the past 2 decades in pro squash. So playing squash. So Datuk punya advice is, youngsters, please pick up squash and play squash. Who knows, maybe you'll be the next Nicol David. So again, I thank you, and this concludes this episode of Overload Podcast Malaysia. We'll see you next time, and do enjoy this particular content. Thank you. Goodbye.
And cut.
Okay.
Thanks, boys.